Indeed, the cultivator who had their golden core forcibly expelled was now barely alive. The red pearl quickly absorbed the person's blood essence and life force. When the pearl flew out of their mouth again, it immediately turned its attention to the next target. Chapter 11, The 11th Return. 9 spirits pill. The person, now shriveled like a dried corpse, still had a faint breath left. A small streak of heavenly lightning from above easily struck and killed them. Clara Ocean smugly remarked, "Old man, see? This method is foolproof. He was killed by heavenly lightning, nothing to do with me." Feeling nothing unusual on her body, Clara Ocean cheerfully hummed a little tune. Vincent's spirit stared at the pearl hovering before them and defiantly said, "We are from Dream River Mountain. If you kill us, our sect will not let you go." Clara Ocean waved her hand dismissively as if shooing away a fly. The pearl repeated the process, expelling the golden core and quickly draining the body into a dried husk. Afterward, Vincent's spirit, like his fellow disciples, turned to ashes. The third golden core cultivator, upon seeing the fate of the first, tried to flee. Unfortunately, the pearl's absorption speed far surpassed his expectations. In the end, he too became a dried corpse, struck dead by heavenly lightning. Seeing there was nothing more to watch, Clara Ocean didn't even glance at the Keyes family and simply said to Henry Lake, "Old man, let's go home." Henry Lake had no choice but to obediently follow as her lackey. Before long, members of the Keyes family cleaned up the battlefield and reported back to the family's great elder, 873 intruders, all deceased, including 8 inner disciples of Dream River Mountain and 3 golden core cultivators, all drained into dried husks. Rose Stevenson was also drained into a husk, and Martin Ocean is missing. Returning to Lake Clan, after hearing the little demon report on the Keyes family situation, Clara Ocean chuckled and said, "It seems that just relying on the pearl is enough to deal with them." She casually picked up a piece of paper, wrote a small note, handed it to the little demon, and said, "Pass this to the Rat brothers to deliver, the rest is up to them." Clara Ocean turned to Henry Lake and said, "I want to handle the pearl for a bit. Same old rule, don't disturb me." Earlier, seeing Henry Lake teleport Clara Ocean away, everyone was left stunned, staring at the spot where the two disappeared. The elder of the Keyes family was filled with regret. Such a promising talent was forced to leave in such a baffling manner. Watching the rat arrogantly deliver the letter, the Keyes family elder opened it and read, "This matter is temporarily concluded. It's best to relocate and avoid the spotlight for now. I won't have time to pay attention to you for a while. Take care." After reading the letter, the elder was left with endless emotions. On the way back to Lake Clan, Clara Ocean tried absorbing the golden core of a cultivator. She could indeed absorb it, but the speed wasn't much faster than absorbing demon energy, making the effect negligible. Frustrated, she tossed 3 golden cores to Henry Lake and asked indignantly, "Hey, that pearl has been consumed by so many people. If I tell you to eat it later, won't you feel guilty?" Henry Lake seriously replied, "I can eat it, Demon Clan isn't that particular, but it could kill someone." Clara Ocean irritably knocked on Henry Lake's head and said, "Are you stupid? Why do you think I told you to return quickly? Of course, I have to refine the pearl one last time before it can be consumed. Moreover, the energy absorbed from this pearl has slightly exceeded expectations. After forming into a pill, there might be strange occurrences. I'm not sure, so we need to rely on Lake Clan's Great Mountain Protecting Formation to neutralize any probing." After saying this, Henry Lake flew even more enthusiastically. Henry Lake finally understood, the item in their possession was essentially an unstable ticking time bomb. From Daisy Lake's previous tribulation, the demon foxes learned that after a 9-tailed fox successfully transcends the heavenly tribulation, they gain a 10th tail, allowing them to ascend directly. The 10th tail is formed by condensing celestial light. After Daisy Lake's ascension, the strongest ruler of Lake Clan became Henry Lake. He was merely a 6-tailed demon fox. The fox mother was also a six-tailed demon fox, while most of the other lake princes had 4 or 5 tails, with the weakest, Nicholas Wood, having only 3 tails. Clara Ocean requested some auxiliary herbs from Henry Lake, then summoned a group of demon foxes to wait outside the door. She instructed them to seize anything that might try to escape. Henry Lake teasingly agreed but remained secretly vigilant. This time, Clara Ocean intended to refine the legendary treasure of Lake Clan, the 9 Spirits Pill. The refining method was discovered in the vast inherited memories of Lake Clan. The one who developed this method was a demon fox who lived by consuming humans. When their cultivation reached perfection, their inner core was seized by human cultivators. Through refinement, it became a 9 Spirits Pill, which was later seized by a White Fox clan leader, who fed it to a descendant. As a result, Lake Clan gained another 9-tailed demon fox. One advantage of Demon Clan's inheritance is that if you carefully comprehend it, you can even experience and understand every small action of the original owner of that memory. By comprehending this inherited memory, coupled with her confidence in her own alchemy talent and the specific conditions of those who consumed the pill, Clara Ocean drafted a revised formula for the refinement. Of course, that Lake Clan leader had plundered everything, including the refining method, which conveniently benefited Clara Ocean. Most importantly, it was rare to have a group of voluntary test subjects. Clara Ocean boldly decided to give it a try. If it succeeded, it would be a huge gain; if it failed, at worst, it would ruin one person. If Henry Lake knew this troublesome girl had such thoughts, would he catch her and spank her? Of course, if there were any danger, Henry Lake would probably let it go. Clara first used the chaotic azure flame to envelop the blood-red pearl, carefully purging its impurities while observing every detail. During her examination, she noticed that the pearl contained several souls, likely fragments of spirits from the deceased or remnants of their true souls. Among them, she recognized the souls of the 3 Golden Core Masters and one resembling Rose Stevenson. Regardless of their nature, swallowing the pearl carried the risk of soul possession. If not cautious, it would be easy to fall victim. After repeatedly inspecting with her divine sense and confirming the absence of any spiritual entities, Clara Ocean placed the pearl into the alchemy furnace. She mixed it with some herbs, refining it into a liquid form before adding the purified pearl for further absorption and integration. Once the pearl was added, a faint crack sound was heard, signaling its dissolution. The process of merging began. Clara proceeded with extreme care. Her nerves on edge, prepared to reverse time at any moment. Despite her anxiety, the process went smoothly. It wasn't until the final merging phase that she had to reverse time twice to succeed. In that instant, heavenly lightning threatened to descend. Sensing the impending lightning tribulation outside, Clara Ocean paused time once more and rushed out of the room to assess its intensity. She used the lightning orb she had absorbed previously to temper the pill. After 2 failed attempts, she confirmed that the pill had reached its maximum saturation. Resuming time, Clara swiftly retrieved the pill and collected the tribulation clouds as well. Once everything was settled, she emerged from the ruined room, her face smudged with soot. Shrugging helplessly, she remarked, "Oops, miscalculation." The house collapsed. Queen Eleanor, concerned, asked, "Are you all right?" Clara shook her head and brushed off a layer of dust. Queen Eleanor patted her chest in relief and said, "As long as you're fine, the house can be repaired tomorrow." Clara Ocean grinned and took out the 9 Spirits Pill. The surrounding demon foxes stared at her in awe, their admiration surging like a tidal wave. Each demon fox possessed inherited memories and instantly recognized what it was, the legendary 9 Spirits Pill, said to grant ascension to immortality in broad daylight with just 1 pill. Clara coughed lightly and impatiently said, "Ahem, wake up, stop fantasizing. I believe this whole daylight ascension thing is unrealistic. Now, figure out who will test it to ensure it's non-toxic and safe to consume." Queen Eleanor took the 9 Spirits Pill and said, "I'll eat it. Can you make more of these?" Clara nodded seriously and replied, if this pill proves successful, I can make as many as you need, provided the materials are sufficient. You'll be responsible for gathering the ingredients and eliminating any obstacles. Queen Eleanor nodded and was about to swallow it when Clara, quick to react, slapped her hand and exclaimed, wait, wait, wait. I'm not finished yet. Seeing Queen Eleanor's puzzled expression, Clara Ocean, slightly irritated, said, has no one ever told you that medicine should be taken as prescribed? Rolling her eyes, she continued, after consuming it, while channeling your energy to dissolve the pill's effects, keep a trace of divine thought guarding your spiritual platform. Clara carefully rephrased her instructions and added, while crafting it, I discovered many fragments of souls within the pearl. Though I've thoroughly ensured they were removed, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? If you eat it recklessly without precautions, you could end up in trouble. Turning back to look at Henry Lake, Clara Ocean said, you two have been husband and wife for so many years. You're protecting her, but I can't guarantee the pill's potency. After all, I don't have a tail. If it becomes unbearable, make sure to disperse the pill's power outside. Safety comes first, don't end up killing the fox, alright? Can you handle it? You probably can, right? Henry Lake nodded, indicating it was no problem. Clara Ocean glanced around again and added, oh, right, the most important thing is, don't try to undergo tribulation yourself. I currently don't have the spiritual energy to help you with that. I probably don't. Queen Eleanor and Henry Lake exchanged a look and nodded in understanding. Queen Eleanor swallowed the 9 spirits pill in one swift motion, carefully sensing its effects and following the prescribed energy circulation route to activate the pill's power. Everyone watched intently, while Henry Lake placed one hand on his wife's back and closed his eyes, using his spiritual sense to monitor her every movement. Very quickly, Queen Eleanor's 6th tail completely turned silvery white, and a 7th tail emerged. Over the next few days, the 7th tail visibly turned white as well, and soon after, an 8th tail began to grow. Everyone was seeing the birth of the 9-tailed fox for the first time, and they couldn't help but gaze at Clara Ocean with admiration. At this moment, Clara Ocean widened her eyes, her small mouth forming an O shape. She, too, was seeing a fox grow tails for the first time. If it weren't for the inappropriate timing, she would have loved to rush over and touch it. Seeing Clara Ocean's expression, the surrounding fox demons began to suspect, could it be that this little girl also didn't know the medicinal effects of this drug? However, just as they were speculating, from Queen Eleanor's lower back, a 9th tail slowly emerged. It was just that this tail was tiny and seemed malnourished. ### Chapter 12, The 12th Return, 9 tails are not a dream. It didn't look great and would need further nurturing. On the 3rd day after the 9th tail emerged, Queen Eleanor and Henry Lake both came out of their cultivation state. When Clara Ocean saw them open their eyes, she immediately rushed over to play with Queen Eleanor's tail. She had wanted to touch it for a long time. It was fluffy, smooth, and felt amazing. Seeing Clara Ocean having so much fun, the surrounding fox demons remained silent. They all simultaneously muttered, a child, truly just a child. Finally, when she grew tired of playing, Clara Ocean noticed the fox demons around her looking at her with helpless expressions. Scratching her head, she changed the subject and asked Queen Eleanor, how does it feel? Queen Eleanor, without any hint of boasting, replied, you handled the soul very cleanly. I don't feel any abnormalities, and the spiritual energy absorption is smooth. Now, I am officially a 9-tailed profound fox. However, to transcend the tribulation, I still need a few hundred years to stabilize and accumulate spiritual energy. Clara Ocean pointed at the clearly malnourished tail and asked, even like this, it works? After asking, she suddenly exclaimed, a few hundred years. Seeing her reaction, Queen Eleanor laughed cheekily and said, of course. Even with just a little tip of a tail, I firmly qualify as a 9-tailed fox. Besides, it's only a matter of insufficient spiritual energy. A few hundred years, is that a long time? For the demon clan, that's already quite fast. Clara Ocean slightly pursed her lips. Seeing everyone seemingly wanting to laugh at her, she pretended to act mature, stroked her chin, and thought aloud, so, this 9 spirits pill is reliable. The fox demons all nodded in agreement, as reality had proven its effectiveness. She then turned to Henry Lake and said, I'll make some improvements. Next time, you'll test it, alright? Don't you have a golden core? Find me a few more demon cores. After saying this, she fell silent. Clara Ocean casually cracked her fingers while calculating and finally said, forget it, no more improvements. After all my calculations, this thing is only practical for the Lake clan. Using pills to deceive cultivators is the safest bet. Humans probably wouldn't dare to consume something like a golden core. The fox demons all nodded in agreement. They silently thought, among humans, besides this weirdo, who would be crazy enough to swallow demon cores, golden cores, or nascent souls? Aren't those things meant for alchemy? Clara Ocean grinned and said to Henry Lake, the cost of the pills is a bit high. You're the boss, so you decide. In the end, they still decided to use pills. Clara Ocean continued to ask, do you have any relatives at Dream River Mountain? Help me poison something there. The fox demons broke out in a cold sweat. Nicholas Wood raised his hand and asked, poison? Are you planning to throw those drugs into the sect? Clara Ocean snapped her fingers and said to Henry Lake, exactly, that's the idea. This time, I'll seriously cast a spell. As long as we throw the stuff in the right place, we can retrieve it later. Nicholas Wood immediately chimed in, it's best to let Owen Lewis handle this, it'll be extremely easy to accomplish. Clara Ocean softly added, are his soldiers reliable? I have 2 squads. Everyone looked at me with subtle intent, clearly implying Lily Lake had given her the suggestion. Clara Ocean summoned Felix Wind from a luxurious house to ask for his opinion. Felix Wind confidently patted his chest, assuring that the task would be completed. In a picturesque location of the Lake clan, Clara Ocean requested a piece of land from Henry Lake, released a few flower spirits and some honeybees, and waited for them to build nests and multiply. Once done, Clara Ocean grabbed 2 guards from the Lake clan to act as laborers and directly built a thatched house on the cliffside of the Lake clan's territory. She leisurely slept inside the house while the 2 guards had no choice but to stand watch nearby. Of course, they took turns, as the location was just outside the Lake clan's barrier, making it unquestionably safe. This time, Clara Ocean slept for over 10 days to recover, while the demon clan prepared the items she needed. Upon returning to the human world, a group of fox spirits joyfully guided Clara Ocean to the outskirts of Falling Blossom City, at the foot of Dream River Mountain. Clara Ocean chose a small ravine nestled between Dream River Mountain and Falling Blossom City and dug a cave to reside in. With the fox spirits' help, the task of digging the cave was naturally entrusted to them. After settling in, Clara Ocean ignored the fox spirits and focused on her cultivation. She took out the thunder orbs she had collected and gradually absorbed the lightning tribulation energy within them to transform her physique. Even though she couldn't achieve the same level of enhancement as the demon clan, she aimed to surpass martial cultivators, as she was, after all, a descendant of mystical beasts. Of course, Clara Ocean intentionally set aside more than 10 thunder orbs for alchemy purposes. She also recalled Lily Lake's advice that whenever breaking through a major realm, the first priority should be stabilizing one's cultivation level and mental state. Therefore, she now needed to stabilize both her cultivation and her mind. Clara Ocean divided her 9 portions of true flame, directing them all to her dantian to burn her golden core steadily over time. This process reduced impurities in the golden core. Due to the unique properties of the true flame, this method also helped stabilize her soul, making her mental state even more resilient. Every day, Clara Ocean's main task was to replenish her depleted spiritual energy, always hoping to replenish more than the previous day. One portion of the true flame was used alongside the circulating spiritual energy during cultivation, burning her meridians as the energy flowed. This method increased the capacity of her meridians. Clara Ocean diligently burned away the impurities in her golden core one by one, living a peaceful daily life, so peaceful that even the fox spirits guarding the entrance grew bored. By now, Dream River Mountain had become a desolate sight. This time, Oscar Lewis had created over 30 pearls in total. Clara Ocean suggested that after finishing the task, Henry Lake could consider gifting them as presents, which wouldn't be a bad idea. If it turned out that other clans could also use them, then further research and development of the 9 Spirits pill could still hold value. The curse on the pills this time absorbed energy from human bodies but did not absorb their souls. Additionally, they carried soul stones specifically for trading with the spirit-eating clan, which were used to collect souls. This time, they were thoroughly prepared. Oscar Lewis and his companions had small physical forms and excellent concealment techniques, making them difficult to detect. Profiting from these circumstances was remarkably easy. Clara Ocean specifically instructed not to provoke trouble with nascent soul stage cultivators, at least targeting those below golden core stage would suffice. If the quality isn't enough, then quantity will make up for it. Oscar Lewis and his group completely understood her intentions, secretly avoiding any direct confrontation while recording everything they desired and needed. Completing the mission was their primary goal. This time, the pills remained locked on to Dream River Mountain disciples for automatic attacks. Golden Core stage disciples launched sneak attacks, while nascent soul stage elders and above avoided and fled. Moreover, this type of cursed object had a devouring nature, and if a nascent soul elder forcibly retained it, there was a certain probability of being backlashed to death. However, such actions were too risky, a large-scale ambush was still the better option. After all, humans have a saying, guard day and night, it's hard to guard against an insider. Clara Ocean instructed them to hide and wait until their targets fell asleep before taking action. Clara Ocean had no objections as long as they gathered enough energy to complete the mission perfectly. Clara Ocean secluded herself in a cave for 2 months of cultivation. Only then did Oscar Lewis and his group return, excited and eager to share. However, upon seeing Clara Ocean, they were immediately silenced by her stern command, quiet. She then turned to Oscar Lewis and said, organize all the information first before speaking. After Oscar Lewis handed over the treasures they had collected, the group eagerly discussed among themselves. Oscar Lewis then said, on the azure abyss peak of Dream River Mountain, there's a 5-colored flower tree. We want it, even just a branch or a leaf would do. We'll help you plant it. Clara Ocean interrupted, describe how good that tree is. Compare it in terms of level and medicinal pills. Without hesitation, Oscar Lewis replied, in your terms, it's akin to the most advanced medicinal pills that are highly beneficial for leveling up. Clara Ocean nodded, signaling him to continue. Oscar Lewis boldly added, in the herb garden on Twilight Peak, there's also a tree. Clara Ocean impatiently cut him off, stop, are you going to talk about plants the entire time? Oscar Lewis nodded, and Clara Ocean, annoyed, said, hey, now is not the time for this. Here's the deal, write down everything you've set your sights on. If your brain can't remember, use a pen. Once the matter with the pills is resolved, if I can infiltrate Dream River Mountain, I'll help you retrieve them. For now, don't bother me anymore. And by the way, it'll take at least a few years, so if you forget, it's not my problem. The bees, diligent as always, immediately began jotting things down, each contributing a few notes. Oscar Lewis confidently remarked, even if we forget, it doesn't matter. We just need to fly over once more to recall everything. Clara Ocean looked at the busy bee soldiers with a helpless expression. Returning to the demon clan with the fox demons, Clara Ocean resumed. Refining pills. After producing a finished pill, she asked Henry Lake to test it. The effect seemed better than Queen Eleanor's pill, as Henry Lake's 9 tails appeared healthier, though their color was slightly mottled. Clara Ocean approached to touch them but quickly withdrew in disdain after less than 2 minutes, finding the texture unpleasant, too stiff and prickly. Henry Lake was quite resentful of the little girl's reaction, while Queen Eleanor rolled on the bed laughing, teasing Henry Lake, "I told you to maintain them, but you wouldn't listen. Now, see? You've been rejected, ha ha ha." This only made Henry Lake even more frustrated. The third pill used by George Wood surprised Clara Ocean as he also broke through to 9 tails. However, both the 8th and 9th tails were just small tufts. Seeing this, Clara Ocean pointed at his tail and asked irritably, "Is this even acceptable?" George Wood nodded earnestly, leaving Clara Ocean speechless. Looking at George Wood's fur, she lost all interest in touching it. She continued refining pills, then went outside the barrier to sleep, and then refined more pills. Like this, pill after pill was produced, enough for every family member, uncles, aunts, and all. The end result was that the Lake clan suddenly had 9 nine-tailed fox demons. Of course, they still needed some time to cultivate and replenish their energy, so they could only be considered as a solid reserve force for now. With 20 pills remaining, Clara Ocean persuaded Henry Lake to have them tested by other races. After finishing the batch of pills, Clara Ocean looked gloomily at the spirit stones containing souls. Seeking out Henry Lake, she bluntly asked, "Where did you get these? Why not sell them back? Aren't you afraid of being possessed when using them?" Chapter 13, Episode 13. Falling Blossom City. Henry Lake looked at the spirit stones in Clara Ocean's hands and asked, "No way to dispose of them?" Clara Ocean nodded, her face full of frustration. Henry Lake replied, "These are a generous gift. If you don't want them, leave them to me." Clara Ocean gave him a skeptical look, evaluating this old fox. Henry Lake coughed lightly and said, "In the demon clan, there's the true spirit clan, and they love human souls. The current clan leader of the True Spirit clan is a sworn brother of Eric King. He was seriously injured before and hasn't fully recovered. These spirit stones would be enough to aid his recovery for a while." Clara Ocean nodded and said, "A secret of the demon realm, so you didn't tell me? But go ask him, if he's free, let him come over for me to test something. Who knows, I might have a way to revive him on the spot. Wouldn't that benefit the Lake clan? After all, I'm more reliable than those quack human doctors, right?" Henry Lake suspiciously asked, "You?" Then, turning around, he chuckled and said, "You even have healing abilities?" Clara Ocean nodded and said, "Sometimes, though it's half-baked. Let's just say it's worth a try. As humans say, no single remedy cures all diseases." Henry Lake left, seemingly satisfied. Clara Ocean had previously told him that she would be staying in Falling Blossom City for a short time and urged him to hurry. She also mentioned that the consultation fee must involve human cultivation resources, along with some famous monkey wine. At that time, Henry Lake smugly asked, "For us?" Clara Ocean rolled her eyes and scornfully replied, "To sell. Without selling some intimidating items, why would Dream River Mountain pay attention to us?" Henry Lake felt a bit resentful. Clara Ocean was then escorted by Emily Wood. Nicholas Wood's 9 spirits pill had been eaten by Emily Wood, so she still only had 3 tails. Thus, Emily Wood had to guide Clara Ocean. It only took them half a month to reach Falling Blossom City. After giving Clara Ocean a large bag of spirit stones, Emily Wood reluctantly departed. By paying 2 low-grade spirit stones, Clara Ocean smoothly entered the city. Since Clara Ocean currently appeared to be only 3 or 4 years old, the gate guards merely symbolically collected 2 spirit stones. Upon entering the city, Clara Ocean felt a bit overwhelmed. The city was enormous, and she truly had no idea where to go. At this moment, a boy slightly older than Clara Ocean, seemingly around 10 years old, appeared by the roadside. He hesitantly asked, "Little sister, are you from another place? Do you need someone to guide you? My price is very reasonable, just 2 low-grade spirit stones per day. I can take you anywhere, except for restricted areas." After carefully observing this boy for a while, relying on her instincts, Clara Ocean didn't sense anything suspicious. Thus, she tentatively asked, "The market, rental places, you know them all, right? Lead me around the city. When I no longer need you, I'll pay. And let me warn you, don't harbor any bad intentions, or you'll face the consequences." The boy shyly smiled and extended his hand, saying, "I'm Simon Lee, and you?" Clara Ocean didn't say much, only replied, "Surname who? Lead me to the market." She followed him on a tour around the city, gaining a rough understanding of the place, including the prices of goods. At the rental management area, she casually rented a room, where the spiritual energy was noted to be average. Clara Ocean was very particular about spiritual energy, so she didn't need a place with abundant energy. What pained her was that this shabby house cost as much as 500 low-grade spirit stones, and that was just for a month's rent. Looking at Simon Lee's expression, Clara Ocean knew she hadn't overpaid. After Simon Lee led her to the future house for a month, he began staring at her. He stood at the door, with no intention of stepping inside. Clara Ocean entered the room, glanced around, then turned back to the door and cheerfully paid. After that, she asked with a smile, "It's not dark yet, are you still working?" Simon Lee chuckled and said, "You've already paid the spirit stone. Before it gets dark, you can order me around as you wish." Clara Ocean promptly took out a low-grade spirit stone and, pointing at Simon Lee still standing at the door, said, "Help me tidy up this room. If you do it quickly and well, there's another spirit stone in it for you." Simon Lee froze slightly but was eventually dragged into the room by Clara Ocean. She tossed the spirit stone and asked, "Will you do it?" Simon Lee hesitated and said, "It's not that messy." Clara Ocean spread her hands, looking helpless as she stood before the table, gesturing that it wasn't acceptable. Simon Lee awkwardly laughed and finally understood what the spirit stone was for. After an hour of effort, the arrangement of furniture in the house was reorganized to suit Clara Ocean's preferences. Seeing Clara Ocean's satisfied expression, Simon Lee happily grabbed the spirit stone, silently pondering, "Which family is this young lady from? She's so generous." When he first met her, he thought she might not be familiar with the area. Unexpectedly, after just one day, she turned out to be quite the generous patron. Clara Ocean smiled and said, "Next is the Q&A session. If you can answer, then answer, if not, help me find out. In any case, answer everything, and you'll get 2 low-grade spirit stones. What do you think?" As she spoke, she placed 2 spirit stones on the table. Simon Lee's eyes lit up as he said, "Ask away. As long as you don't spread it around, I can basically answer everything." Clara Ocean grinned and said, "I just want to know. First question, what's the price of medicinal pills here? How many alchemists are there? What's the pill formation rate? Specifically for low-level pills, below nascent soul level." Simon Lee gave a rough explanation, then awkwardly added, "Sorry, golden core and nascent soul-level pills aren't something I'm familiar with. But are you an alchemist?" "Oh, right, the city is currently short on alchemists." "How skilled are you?" "The previous alchemist has been missing for nearly 2 years." Clara Ocean didn't answer his question and instead continued, "Second question, what information do you have about Dream River Mountain? Also, regarding this city in Dream River Mountain, tell me everything you know." Simon Lee then rambled on for a while, and Clara Ocean pieced together the story. The city lord here was an elder of the Scott family, the largest clan on Dream River Mountain. On Dream River Mountain, there was an early-stage out-of-body ancestor, 5 nascent soul ancestors, and 50 golden core cultivators. These numbers were after Oscar Lewis and his group had carried out a massacre. Of course, Simon Lee embellished the story, detailing how Dream River Mountain was attacked. This was when Clara Ocean realized how dedicated Oscar Lewis and his group were in completing their mission. Clara Ocean, very pleased, handed him 2 low-grade spirit stones and continued, "I want to rent a booth. Where should I go?" Simon Lee looked at Clara Ocean with a helpless expression, leaving her puzzled and confused. He sighed mournfully and said, "It's the rental place from earlier." Clara Ocean finally understood the reason. The two exchanged glances in silence for a moment before Simon Lee resignedly led the way. As they headed out the door, Clara Ocean slipped a low-grade spirit stone into Simon Lee's hand. Simon Lee also realized that this little girl was inherently someone who wouldn't back down. Clara Ocean thought for a moment and then said, "It seems like you'll have to come back with me later. Since you don't know the way, do you know how to write? Make me a signboard. Oh, by the way, is there anyone reliable and free in the city? I think I might need an assistant." Simon Lee nodded. Hearing the word persistent, Simon Lee asked, "How about revenge? How do we handle that?" Clara Ocean tilted her head, pondering for a moment, and replied, "Let me think about it. We'll talk once we're back." Returning again to the rental place, this time they called for the rental manager directly, knowing they needed to look beyond the counter. Earlier, due to Clara Ocean's stature, the rental manager had spent quite some time searching around aimlessly. The rental manager asked, "Oh, little girl, why are you back again?" Clara Ocean raised her head and said, "I heard you also rent stalls here. I want to rent one." The rental manager pulled out another board, densely marked with red dots. He explained seriously, "The green spots are available. Minimum rental is 6 months. Clara Ocean noticed the 5th spot was vacant and pointed at it. The rental manager hesitated slightly and said, "The first 10 stalls require solid skills. If you don't have the expertise, you won't be able to run the business there." Clara Ocean smiled upon hearing this and replied earnestly, "It's fine. Let's go with this one." "How much for 6 months?" The rental manager casually said, 5,000 low-grade spirit stones. In truth, the stall only cost 1,000 low-grade spirit stones per year. Just as Clara Ocean was about to pay, Simon Lee tugged at her sleeve. Clara Ocean looked at him, puzzled. Simon Lee forced a wry smile and said to the rental manager, "Manager, such a young child like this has it tough enough, how could you bear to charge such a high price?" Hearing this, Clara Ocean immediately thought of 3 words, "Got scammed." The rental manager shot Simon Lee a sideways glance and added provocatively, "This is the price for 5 years. Clara Ocean looked helplessly at the rental manager and directly pulled out 1,000 low-grade spirit stones, saying, "Do you even know how to calculate?" The rental manager chuckled and said, "Normally, payment is made every 5 years, but since you're still young, we'll settle it year by year." Seeing Simon Lee still wanting to argue, Clara Ocean tugged at him and shook her head. Clara Ocean stuck out her tongue and asked obediently, "Uncle, how do we handle the signboard?" The rental manager replied, "If you're running a fixed business, we can specify it clearly for you. If pricing is needed, we'll base it on the average market transaction rates." Clara Ocean thought for a moment and said, "Regarding the refining of pills below the nascent soul stage, materials are self-provided. Chi refining stage and foundation establishment stage pills will be delivered the next day, with a minimum batch of 5 pills per set of materials. Golden core stage pills will be delivered within 3 days, with a minimum of 3 pills. Nascent soul stage pills will be delivered within 7 days, with at least 1 pill. For golden core stage and nascent soul stage, the pill formulas must also be provided." The rental manager hesitantly asked, "You can refine nascent soul stage pills?" Clara Ocean replied somewhat sheepishly, "I can refine them, but the success rate is a bit low." The rental manager inquired, "So, out of 5 sets of materials, how many pills can you produce?" Clara Ocean calculated briefly and said, roughly 1 pill per set, though it's a bit of a stretch since my cultivation level is still lacking. The rental manager thought for a moment and said, all right, wait a bit. We'll need to conduct an assessment. Clara Ocean obediently nodded and added, I prefer to refine at home. I don't like being watched. Also, for the assessment, you should calculate it as 2 sets of materials yielding 1 pill. If I fail, that should be accounted for. Chapter 14, The Young Alchemist. The rental manager agreed, of course, but if both attempts fail, the assessment will be considered incomplete, and the stall rental fee won't be refunded. Clara Ocean calmly nodded. The rental manager immediately reported the situation to Scott City Lord, who instructed the steward of the City Lord's mansion to handle the matter and report back with any updates. Soon, the steward of the City Lord's mansion arrived at the rental manager's location and handed several sets of materials to Clara Ocean. Clara Ocean hesitated and asked, no pill formula. The steward shot a reproachful glance at the rental manager but said nothing. Seeing the steward's doubt, Clara Ocean carefully examined the recipe and asked, is this urgent? If not, come back tomorrow morning. If it is, follow me home, but you'll have to wait outside. I don't want anyone watching me to refine. The steward considered for a moment and asked, how long will it take? Clara Ocean calculated and replied, for this golden core stage recipe, it'll take 2 hours. As for the nascent soul stage 1, I know the materials are rare, so it might take longer, within 5 hours. Just so you know, any pills produced beyond the listed quantity on the signboard, I'll keep for myself. The steward responded formally, for golden core stage pills, with 5 sets of materials, at least 4 pills must meet the standard. For nascent soul stage pills, with 2 sets of materials, at least 1 pill must meet the standard. Clara Ocean nodded and turned to Simon Lee, asking, Brother Lin, do you know where I can buy jade bottles? Simon Lee enthusiastically accompanied Clara Ocean to buy a jade vase. After escorting her back home, he received a low-grade spirit stone as compensation and left in high spirits. Today had been a profitable day for him, easily earning over a dozen low-grade spirit stones. As for other work, there clearly wasn't time today, so he decided to leave it for tomorrow. Returning to his room, he carefully shut the door and took out 2 portions of golden core stage materials to begin crafting. Golden core stage pills were relatively challenging. Clara Ocean could only craft 2 batches at a time at most, as doing more might affect the quality of the final product. About an hour and a half later, the door to Clara Ocean's house opened. She handed a porcelain bottle to the steward of the City Lord's mansion and said, here are 5 top-grade pills. This task is complete. I still have a few bottles left, 33 high-grade, 28 mid-grade, and 54 low-grade pills. Additionally, there are 10 top-grade pills, with the profit already deducted. The steward of the City Lord's mansion was momentarily stunned, blankly accepting the bottle. Clara Ocean tugged at his sleeve, saying, snap out of it. Snap out of it. If the bottle breaks, I won't be responsible. The steward regained his composure, slightly chastising himself, and immediately crouched down to meet Clara Ocean's gaze, showing a posture of attentiveness. Clara Ocean continued, according to my rules, half of the production materials are deducted. Since you're my first customer, I'll give you both the top-grade and high-grade pills. As for the mid-grade and low-grade ones, I'll set them up for sale tomorrow. The steward, adopting a flattering tone, asked, can I buy them all? Clara Ocean tilted her head in thought and nodded, 1,000 spirit stones per pill. The steward considered it. Even at 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones, it would still be profitable and quickly agreed, all right, 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Turning to look at Clara Ocean, who seemed somewhat puzzled, the steward asked hesitantly, 1,000 high-grade spirit stones would be too much. A string of ellipses seemed to float above Clara Ocean's head before she uttered a sentence that made the steward of the City Lord's mansion want to faint, I thought 1,000 low-grade spirit stones was already a lot. I've heard mid-grade spirit stones are really expensive. The steward was momentarily speechless and couldn't help but wonder which family this little child belonged to. Clara Ocean softly added, could you give me a mix of spirit stones? Like a bit of each type, even some rare ones would be fine. You can combine them however you like. The steward forced a smile and said, ahem, I'll ask the manager to make you a proper pricing chart later, otherwise, you might end up selling at a loss. Clara Ocean obediently nodded and replied, as long as I have food to eat, it's fine. After all, I'm the only one left in my family. The steward of the city lord's mansion asked, what happened to your family? Clara Ocean pouted and said, they don't need me anymore. She wasn't exactly lying, her family, the Keys family, truly didn't need her anymore. As for her mother, even if she wanted to return, it was impossible. The demon clan. That place was unsuitable for her, and she was more inclined to escape. After speaking, Clara Ocean forced a smile and said, well, that nascent soul stage guy, you can come back tomorrow morning. Tonight, I want to rest a bit, replenish my spiritual energy before refining. Otherwise, I won't be able to handle it. The butler of the city lord's mansion, understanding the situation, nodded and turned to report back to the city lord, taking the previously noted pills with him. He didn't notice that as soon as he left, the little fox behind him revealed a mischievous smile. That's right, the fish had taken the bait, time to celebrate a little. Strictly speaking, Clara Ocean could even refine pills for the divine transformation stage and the tribulation stage. It was just a matter of methods and techniques. As night fell, a mouse scurried into Clara Ocean's room, squeaked a few times, and obediently left. This was how the Lake Clan communicated with her. After all, mice existed everywhere. Clara Ocean knew someone from the Lake Clan was looking for her in the northern part of the city. But as soon as she left her room, she realized she was slightly lost. Which way was north? Where was the North City Gate? While she was confused, Simon Lee approached and asked, need a guide? It's free. Clara Ocean smiled at him, pulled him into the room, and said, hey, want to take on an out-of-city task? Let me be clear, if you help me run errands, you can't embezzle anything, or you'll meet a terrible end. Of course, you'll get your spirit stones. Simon Lee rolled his eyes and said, all right, as long as it's not life-threatening, I'll do it. But can I trade for some pills instead? Clara Ocean nodded and said, you haven't even reached Foundation establishment. Asking for pills won't help much. Simon Lee sheepishly replied, just one spirit-gathering pill a day is fine. I'll watch the counter for you. How about that? Clara Ocean rolled her eyes and said, fine. When I need you, you'll help me run errands. Let me clarify, I'm an alchemist and have some dealings with the demon clan. Your job will be to deliver the herbs they give me or the pills I've refined back to them. You are not allowed to embezzle anything, or if you get eaten alive, it's none of my business. Deal? Of course, I'll set aside your share. After thinking for a moment, Clara Ocean added, watching the counter is simple. Just pack the herbs they deliver, record who brought what, so if there's an issue with the herbs, it's easy to trace. Secondly, it makes deliveries clear. You've seen the signboard, right? Here's the deal, if you're at the chi refinement stage, I'll give you 15 pills. For Foundation establishment, 10 pills. The rest will depend on the deliveries. For the first successful batch of Foundation establishment pills, I'll give you 3. Simon Lee thought for a moment, nodded, all right, but can I take only chi refining pills? 15 pieces will do. Once my younger sister reaches Foundation establishment, I'll take a different type. Clara Ocean shook her head and said, the pills are given as is. If you want to exchange them for spirit stones or anything else, that's your business. Figure it out yourself. After speaking, Clara Ocean's eyes suddenly flashed with a purple light, and she said coldly, "I've placed a curse on you. You must not let a third party know about what I told you today or what you will do later in any form. Only then will the curse remain ineffective. Of course, you also won't be able to reveal it, as that's a restrictive condition of the curse." Simon Lee understood. He had boarded a pirate's ship. Clara Ocean smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, "North Gate." Simon Lee gloomily led the way. When they reached the North Gate, they smoothly exited the city. Clara Ocean used her spiritual sense and immediately saw Wu Jojo standing there absent-mindedly. Leading Simon Lee over, Clara Ocean curiously asked, "Why are you here?" Wu Jojo replied gloomily, "Among the brothers, I'm the weakest, so running errands is my job. By the way, have you settled in here?" Clara Ocean impatiently said, "Get to the point. I have things to do tonight." Wu Jojo glanced at Simon Lee, and Clara Ocean continued, "Oh, right. If I can't make it out in the future, contact him to reach you all." Wu Jojo nodded and said, "All right, that's settled. Are you coming over there, or should I call someone here?" Clara Ocean thought for a moment and said, "Return to the clan, it's safer. But not for the next few days. After all, he's been sick for so long. Tell him to wait another month. I've just rented a stall. Come pick me up in a month. If there are any leftover herbs, bring them here, and I'll refine them for you all." Wu Jojo said, "Got it. I'll deliver the message." He turned to leave. Clara Ocean indifferently said, Hey, it's not done yet." Wu Jojo turned back to look at her with confusion. She threw 4 bottles of pills to him and continued, "Top-grade coalescing pills, 30 pieces, mid-grade, 30 pieces, low-grade, 20 pieces. Additionally, there are 10 supreme-grade pills. Tell them to divide it among themselves." I embezzled a little. "Do you have any chi condensing pills? Give me a few dozen pieces." Wu Jojo excitedly opened the bottles to check, then tucked them away. He took out another bottle and handed it to Clara Ocean. She opened it, then casually tossed it to Simon Lee. Simon Lee excitedly opened the bottle, which was filled with 50 chi condensing pills. Clara Ocean laughed heartily and said, "You've received the benefits. If anything goes wrong, just think about what might happen to this weakest one here." She winked at Wu Jojo, who immediately transformed into a fox, scaring Simon Lee. Simon Lee happily ran over to touch him, saying, "A demon fox, so adorable." As a result, Wu Jojo angrily chased Simon Lee all over the mountain. Clara Ocean stood nearby, watching the two fools. If she hadn't forgotten the way, she wouldn't have bothered to stand there watching them in such boredom. Clara Ocean leisurely chewed on some grass and said, "Heh, that's about enough. I need to get back to work. Right, tomorrow, have this guy deliver nascent soul stage pills to you. Around 20 to 30 pieces, depending on my luck. Oh, and don't snatch them from the little fellow. That's his hard-earned reward." Wu Jojo nodded, not forgetting to give Simon Lee a threatening glance before happily running off. Clara Ocean helplessly looked at Simon Lee and said, "He's crazy, and you're following his lead? Bringing trouble upon yourself. He's at the golden core stage, after all." Hearing this, Simon Lee's legs gave way, and he collapsed to the ground, looking pitifully at Clara Ocean. Clara Ocean shook her head, kicked him twice, and said, "Don't be so cowardly. I'm also at the golden core stage, just looking a bit more delicate." Simon Lee promptly fainted. Chapter 15, the 15th episode, Lost Path. Shaking her head, Clara Ocean began kicking Simon Lee, muttering, "Lazy pig, wake up. Lazy pig, wake up." While Clara Ocean was feeling bored, a group of soldiers approached and, upon seeing her, saluted. The leader respectfully asked, "Has something happened? Is there anything we can assist you with?" Clara Ocean pointed at the unconscious Simon Lee and said, "My guide has passed out. I can't just leave him here alone, so I was trying to wake this lazy pig up. Saying this, she kicked Simon Lee again, indicating how deeply he was asleep. The leader turned to the back, and a man with a refined appearance stepped forward. He conjured a water orb in his hand and threw it precisely at Simon Lee's face. Startled, Simon Lee jolted awake, jumping to his feet. Simon Lee shook his head, brushing the water off himself, looked around, and then turned to Clara Ocean with a helpless expression. Clara Ocean shrugged and said responsibly, "Don't look at me. I don't know either. Judging from their uniforms, they must be gatekeepers." Simon Lee politely introduced the person in front. "This is Mr. Thomas Scott, the chief guard of North City Gate. The one who woke me up is Mr. Andrew, a practitioner of water law, dual cultivating in ice and water." Seeing Simon Lee rambling, Clara Ocean kicked his leg and said, Hey, stop showing off. Lead the way. Let's go home." Simon Lee felt a bit aggrieved but obediently led the way. Back home, Clara Ocean said to Simon Lee, "Oh, right, I have another task for you. If I don't make it tomorrow, you can look after the stall for me. Also, keep an eye out for any news related to the Keys family in Dreamwake City. If you find anything, let me know immediately." Simon Lee nodded and handed back the pill bottle from earlier. Clara Ocean smiled and said, "That's your advance salary. Remember the previous warning, I think that's all." Simon Lee obediently nodded. Suddenly, Clara Ocean's face turned cold as she said, "About my matters." Simon Lee quickly interjected, "Aren't you just 2 levels higher than me? You're only at the 5th level of chi refinement, right?" Clara Ocean nodded, clearly satisfied with his response. Currently, the level Clara Ocean displayed was indeed the 5th level of chi refinement. Seeing her satisfied expression, Simon Lee breathed a sigh of relief. He had realized that the 3 or 4-year-old child in front of him was merely pretending to be innocent. Thus, he was very certain that as long as he didn't cause trouble behind her back, his good days were ahead. Children are easy to appease, or at least on the surface, she appeared to be a genuine child. Clara Ocean noticed Simon Lee's expression and honestly said, "I'm only 4 years old, so don't bully me because I'm small, okay?" Simon Lee staggered, thinking, good heavens, a 4-year-old golden core expert, how can anyone survive this? After sending Simon Lee off, Clara Ocean took some time to cleanse herself before preparing to refine the 10,000 Tribulations pill. This pill was the only auxiliary path to absorb spiritual energy during the nascent soul stage, akin to the giant spirit pill for this level. Contemplating for a while, Clara Ocean already had a rough method of refining the pill in her mind. She closed her eyes and carefully reviewed the refining process in her spiritual platform, simultaneously correcting any potential errors. An hour passed as she ensured all preparations were complete before beginning the refinement of the 10,000 Tribulations pill. Step by step, she followed her plan. Whenever deviations occurred, Clara Ocean would rewind a few seconds to restore the medicinal liquid to its proper trajectory. Soon, she reached the final stage, pill fusion, considered the most technically demanding step for an alchemist in the entire process. Fortunately, Clara Ocean possessed partial mastery over the time Tao, allowing her to cheat and ensure a higher success rate. After rewinding time 5 times, she finally succeeded. Thunder clouds roared above, signaling the pill tribulation. Clara Ocean glanced upward. This tribulation was not as intense as the previous one. Looking at the thunder clouds, she estimated there were only 5 thunder pearls. Pausing time, Clara Ocean began enhancing the thunder tribulation to purify the 10,000 Tribulations pill. After repeated trials, this batch produced a total of 40 pills, consuming 6 thunder pearls in the process. Clara Ocean glanced at the pills, keeping 20 for herself, while deciding to sell the remaining 20 to the city lord steward. With 2 sets of materials prepared, she absorbed spiritual energy to calm her mind before beginning the second batch. With experience from the first attempt, the second batch yielded 46 pills in total. Clara Ocean categorized the pills into grades, low, medium, high, and supreme quality, dividing them into 8 bottles. Altogether, there were 30 low-grade, 23 medium-grade, 18 high-grade, and 15 supreme-grade pills. She kept 10 low-grade, 15 medium-grade, 10 high-grade, and 10 supreme-grade pills for herself. After tidying up, Clara Ocean noticed dawn breaking outside. Feeling slightly fatigued, she decided to rest. Just as she was about to sleep, a knock sounded at the door. Opening it, she found the city lord steward respectfully standing there. Clara handed him 4 prepared bottles and tiredly said, "I've done my best." The 2 batches produced a total of 41 pills. "Since I don't need these pills, I'm giving them all to you. Pay me whatever amount of spirit stones you think is fair. We can discuss the rest after I wake up. Oh, by the way, I recently hired a new staff member for my stall to help collect materials. Please keep an eye on them for me. Now, don't disturb my sleep." With that, Clara Ocean turned and shut the door, leaving the city lord steward grinning foolishly and nodding repeatedly. He understood that producing such a quantity, even if he skimmed a bit, wouldn't warrant any complaints from her. The Scott family also had alchemists, but even their golden core stage pills rarely yielded 10 pills per batch, which was already considered high-level alchemy. It was common for alchemists to keep some pills for personal use. Clara Ocean, after closing the door, wrote on it, "The owner is sleeping, please do not disturb." As daylight brightened, Simon Lee came to report but, noticing the note on the door, turned to oversee stall number 5 instead. He pulled out a notebook with promotional material from the rental manager. The list of people seeking to refine pills was already packed. Simon Lee eagerly pushed his way to the front, but the surrounding cultivators protested, "Simon Lee, why are you pushing? Go to the back and line up." Simon Lee patted his head and said, "Everyone, please make way. I'm in charge of booth number 5. A loud voice interrupted, "Stop boasting. Do you even know how to refine pills? Do you think we wouldn't recognize it if you didn't?" Simon Lee, exhausted, replied, "I'm only responsible for collecting the medicinal ingredients and recording them. You can come back tomorrow to pick up the pills. The booth owner was busy refining pills yesterday and only woke up this morning, so I'm helping to watch over the booth." The crowd around began murmuring. At that moment, the area manager appeared. Spotting Simon Lee, he asked, "Simon Lee, didn't Miss Ho instruct you to keep records? What are you doing back here?" Simon Lee helplessly explained, "They don't believe me, and I can't get through." The crowd immediately made way for Simon Lee, understanding that the area manager wouldn't joke about such matters. The area manager addressed the people waiting in line, "Everyone, please cooperate. Pills below the Golden Core stage can be collected tomorrow. For Golden Core and Nascent Soul stage, it will take a bit longer, and you'll need the corresponding pill formula. If you lack ingredients or a formula, prepare them yourself." Clara Ocean woke up in the afternoon. After cleaning the ink stains off her door, she headed towards the city gate. However, she unknowingly walked in the opposite direction, towards the marketplace. When Clara Ocean saw the large South City characters on the city gate, she suddenly realized she had gone the wrong way. Since Clara Ocean had successfully refined pills for the city lord, the guards at the 4 city gates were well aware of the high-level alchemist, who looked about 4 years old. Naturally, they also recognized Clara Ocean's appearance. A cautious gate guard approached Clara Ocean, saluted her respectfully, and asked, "Is there anything I can assist you with, miss?" Clara Ocean scratched her head awkwardly and said, I think I got lost. I wanted to go to my booth but ended up here." The guard broke into a cold sweat upon hearing this. Her booth was in the west. How far had she wandered? Nevertheless, he quickly replied, "Miss, please wait a moment. I'll notify my colleagues and escort you there." Ocean obediently nodded. The soldier exchanged a few words with his companions, then hurried back to lead me to stall number 5. When Clara Ocean arrived at the stall, she casually tossed a marrow-cleansing pill to the station general. This pill was essential for the Foundation establishment stage. The station general thanked her and left. Simon Lee suspiciously asked, "Why did you run to the south gate? This is the West City." Clara Ocean frowned and replied, "Got lost." "Okay." Simon Lee sighed helplessly, "Little sister, you clearly went the wrong way as soon as you stepped out the door." Looking at the herbs in his hand, I suddenly felt a bit annoyed. Clara Ocean selected 3 portions of herbs and asked irritably, "Who gave these to you?" Seeing Clara Ocean's displeased expression, Simon Lee immediately realized that there was something wrong with the herbs. He quickly checked them, reading out the names of the suppliers along with their addresses and the required pills. Clara Ocean broke into a cold sweat. Indeed, being a guide meant knowing the streets inside out. Even if they weren't locals, he could pinpoint which inn the suppliers were staying at. His information network was as thorough as a rat's. If Simon Lee knew Clara Ocean compared him to a rat, he'd probably want to cry but couldn't. Before Simon Lee could finish speaking, Clara Ocean climbed onto the table, smacked Simon Lee on the forehead, and angrily said, "You accepted these herbs from them? These 3 portions are either drained of spiritual energy or completely the wrong type. Don't even think about refining pills, you can't even make dregs out of these. Go ahead, show me how you make medicine out of weeds." Simon Lee's face darkened slightly. He understood now that the herbs he received were fake and unusable. The station general of South City, who hadn't gone far, heard the commotion and returned to ask, "Miss Ocean, what's going on here?" Chapter 16, 16th episode. Fake medicinal herbs and poisons. Clara Ocean, visibly annoyed, said, "This guy accepted fake herbs." She pointed at Simon Lee. The station general wanted to laugh but maintained his composure and respectfully said, "Do you know who gave you the fake herbs? We can help you return them." Simon Lee gritted his teeth and listed several names, along with their addresses. Seeing both the general and Clara Ocean stunned, Simon Lee chuckled, We siblings make a living as guides. We know the faces around the city, and we're familiar with most places." As soon as he finished, Clara Ocean looked at the general expectantly. The general put away the herbs and the marrow-cleansing pill he had been paid, happily heading off to confront the culprits. Clara Ocean was puzzled. There are people like this in our city, and he's not angry. Simon Lee smirked, "He's got external benefits. Why would he be angry? Just the marrow-cleansing pill you gave him is enough to keep him smiling for months." Clara Ocean felt helpless. The stall remained open until the hour of the monkey, after which they packed up. A sign was left on the stall, indicating it would reopen at the hour of the dragon the next day. On their way home, Clara Ocean asked Simon Lee to take her out to eat. They went to the famous Falling Blossom Tavern in Falling Blossom City. The tavern keeper, a disciple of the Scots, recognized Simon Lee and naturally knew who the 4-year-old Clara Ocean was. They were warmly welcomed and treated to food and drinks. Clara Ocean casually asked the attendant serving them, "By the way, do you guys deliver meals?" The waiter was very polite, "Others may not be allowed, but if it's you, perhaps it's possible. Just worried it might disturb you. Oh, by the way, we also have takeaway options here." Clara Ocean nodded and ordered a few meat dishes. Without any pretense of elegance, she devoured the food ravenously, shocking everyone in the tavern. Realizing something was off, Clara Ocean stuck out her tongue and said, "I'm just a child, I need nutrition to grow up." Hearing this, everyone in the tavern collapsed to the ground. Everyone internally screamed, "You eat more than several adults combined, you eat more than a beast." Indeed, she ate more than a beast, even her uncles couldn't out-eat her. Clara Ocean pouted, showing her dissatisfaction. The people around carefully observed her. Indeed, she looked like a child. Just as the tavern fell silent, a group of people barged in aggressively. As soon as they entered, they shouted, "Simon Lee, you brat, come out here. And bring that girl too." Clara Ocean, while stuffing meat into her mouth, curiously asked Simon Lee, "Relatives of yours?" Simon Lee gave Clara Ocean a resentful glance and pouted, "Obviously, they're here to fight, can't you tell?" Clara Ocean made a very wise decision, bandits are here. Everyone, run. Help help. The people around felt helpless, but seeing that this high-level alchemist before them was only at the 5th chi refining stage, they understood that her calling for help was indeed more reliable. Only Simon Lee internally pouted, "Damn it, you're a big shot at the golden core stage. And yet you're casually yelling for help, how unreliable." The intruder glanced at Clara Ocean, who was crying out for help, and mocked, "So you're the little alchemist." Clara Ocean cooperatively replied, "Bad guy." After thinking for a moment, she added, "Scammer." The intruder sneered sinisterly, "Little alchemist, your alchemy skills seem decent. If you're willing to follow me, I won't harm you." At this moment, Clara Ocean hid behind Simon Lee, pretending to be pitiful, and softly asked, "Where did this guy come from? Do you know him?" Simon Lee tilted his head and replied, "Dream River Mountain, the Taylor family. They're rivals with the Scott family. The two nascent soul ancestors of these families are at odds, and those herbs were sent by them." Simon Lee spoke nervously, only to receive a calm, "Oh," in response. Simon Lee wiped his sweat. Could she not be so calm? Don't tell him this chi refining stage person would actually fight her first real battle. Clara Ocean looked at Simon Lee's expression and said gloomily, "Hold them off for a bit, reinforcements should arrive soon." 10. Simon Lee gave Clara Ocean a peculiar look, but Clara Ocean casually remarked, "Is the Taylor family so great? Mixing weeds with medicinal herbs, your Taylor family really knows how to do business, huh? You can only fool a few clueless lackeys with no discernment." After saying this, Clara Ocean shot Simon Lee a few disdainful glances before whispering, 9. Feeling wronged, Simon Lee retorted, "Damn it, who would have thought the young master of the Taylor family would use worthless weeds to frame people? This is absolutely outrageous, isn't it?" Clara Ocean jabbed Simon Lee in the ribs and said, "If you don't know quality, just admit you don't. They're here to sabotage us, even if it's outrageous, it's still normal." She continued in a low voice, 8. Seeing himself completely ignored, the young master of the Taylor family became furious. "Guards! Arrest this girl and beat that Lee guy to death." Simon Lee, teary-eyed, looked at Clara Ocean, but she appeared even more at ease. She pulled out a classic child's move, "Wah." Clara Ocean started crying loudly. Above the hotel, a black crow suddenly flew by, accompanied by a series of exclamation points. Everyone once again confirmed that this child, though gifted in alchemy, was simply overreacting out of fear. Simon Lee, however, was filled with dark lines in his mind. "Seriously, what are you doing? What's the point of crying? Casting a spell or something?" A scene that left everyone dumbfounded unfolded. Though Clara Ocean cried loudly, the people around her began to look dazed. Naturally, Simon Lee, standing next to her, was unaffected. Thanks to Clara Ocean's spell, Simon Lee was categorized as an ally before the curse activated, so he wasn't bewitched. After all, Clara Ocean might not have the body of a fox spirit, but her bloodline from the Lake clan carried a hint of charm. Her crying alone exuded a faint allure. As a result, the people nearby were all affected, one by one falling into a trance. Since her bewitchment wasn't intentional, they merely stood there blankly without reacting. While crying, Clara Ocean tugged at Simon Lee's sleeve. Suddenly snapping out of it, Simon Lee noticed her pointing at the food on the table and then at the waiter. Simon Lee's expression darkened as he went to wake the waiter, instructing him to prepare more food for takeout. The waiter glanced around nervously at the dazed crowd, swallowed hard, and rushed into the kitchen to place the order. The food was brought out rather quickly, even faster than before. Clara Ocean continued to cry while casually pulling Simon Lee along. Simon Lee's mouth twitched, but he obediently followed her. After walking quite a distance, Clara Ocean finally whispered, "The stall." Simon Lee led the way to the stall, where Clara Ocean added, "We're being hunted. Close the stall tomorrow." After writing this down, she patted her hands and calmly told Simon Lee to lead her home. Of course, on the way, they found the rental manager and informed him about closing the stall the next day. She asked him to handle it, telling those coming to pick up alchemy products to leave them with him for now and informing others to come back later when convenient. The rental manager reassured them with a few words and arranged for someone to escort Clara Ocean and Simon Lee home. He then reported the matter to his superiors. On the way home, Clara Ocean told Simon Lee, "You've got quite a few resources now. Find a decent place to live." Simon Lee said, "It's fine. With how bold you are today, by tomorrow afternoon at the latest, the young master of the Taylor family will be kicked out of the city. It's just hiding for one day." Clara Ocean tilted her head upward at a 45-degree angle, her face showing an expression of indifference, while Simon Lee wiped his sweat. When Clara Ocean returned home, she composed herself and prepared to refine some pills for the day. She took inventory of the various medicinal ingredients she received, organizing similar ones together. Simon Lee had been thoughtful enough to package each type of ingredient separately and even labeled the required pills on each package. Some prescriptions were directly attached to the outside of the packages or transcribed onto them. After tidying up, Clara Ocean continued refining the pills in order. By the time the night had passed, all the ingredients she received that day had been processed. What remained were a few unfamiliar prescriptions and some less recognizable ingredients. After carefully observing them, Clara Ocean couldn't help but frown. Among the unfamiliar ingredients, there were 2 prescriptions containing poisonous substances. Although she didn't know their names, based on the scent, she could deduce that they were inedible. She also held another prescription in her hand. While the ingredients were not toxic, from her memory, the combination of these particular herbs was unusable. Looking up at the sky, it was already dark, but as far as she knew, the city gates were always guarded day and night. Clara Ocean grabbed the ingredients, stepped out of her house, and casually chose a direction to walk. As expected, after a short while, she encountered a group of soldiers in uniform patrolling the city. Upon seeing Clara Ocean holding a bag of herbs, the leading soldier approached her. He respectfully asked, "Miss Clara, is there anything you need assistance with?" At this point, the soldiers all shared a common understanding: this young alchemist seemed to have a terrible sense of direction. Sigh, she truly was directionally challenged and had no idea where to go. Clara Ocean thought for a moment and uncertainly asked, I urgently need to find Simon Lee. Do you know where his house is?" The soldiers exchanged glances before one of them hesitantly raised his hand and said, "I know, Mississippi." Without further ado, Clara Ocean, in a somewhat hurried tone, said, "Lead the way." Seeing her urgency, the soldier carried her and quickly headed to a modest-looking house. The soldier then knocked on the door with great force. However, it was evident that the occupants of the house were in a deep sleep. Clara Ocean poked the soldier's shoulder and asked, "If the house gets damaged, how much would I need to compensate?" The soldier thought for a moment and replied, "With your status, probably nothing." As soon as he finished speaking, a lightning orb was hurled out, and the next moment, a wall in front of them collapsed. Houses in the main areas of the city were protected by defensive formations. If Clara Ocean used her own power to break in, her identity would be exposed. The soldier's mouth twitched, and finally, someone from inside the house rushed out. Seeing Clara Ocean, Simon Lee, on the verge of tears, asked, "Little girl, why are you barging into my house in the middle of the night and breaking my door?" ###Chapter 17, the 17th episode, the Taylor family. Clara Ocean irritably asked, "Let me ask you something. Did you record all the medicinal pills today?" Simon Lee nodded, looking puzzled, and asked, "Is there a problem with the medicine?" Clara Ocean nodded with a trace of grievance and said, "Congratulations, you've discovered that 3 of the prescriptions are essentially poisons. I've finished analyzing the others. Although the prescriptions indicate they are non-toxic, 2 of them contain poisonous ingredients, and the third one becomes toxic when the ingredients are combined. While I'm not sure how lethal they are, I can confirm that they are deadly." Clara Ocean continued, "I've never concocted these before, and I'm unfamiliar with the prescriptions. There's no way the medicine can be properly prepared. Now, we need to find out where these medicines are intended to go and assess the situation." After speaking, Clara Ocean handed the 3 prescriptions to Simon Lee. Simon carefully examined them and hesitantly said, "Well, these 3 prescriptions were commissioned by someone from the city lord's mansion. At least, the address provided is from there." The captain of the guards accompanying them asked, "Was it the city lord's butler who gave them to you?" Clara Ocean also looked at Simon Lee expectantly. Simon Lee shook his head and said, "No, and the 3 people who delivered them looked unfamiliar to me. I don't know them. But I'm certain they've only been in Falling Blossom City for about 10 days. They've been around the city lord's mansion during this time. If not for that, I wouldn't have accepted this task." With that, Clara Ocean and Simon Lee both turned their gaze to the captain of the guards. The captain didn't say much and led the 2 of them to the city lord's mansion. With the guidance of the guards, they easily met the city lord's butler. The butler, upon seeing Clara Ocean, appeared surprised and asked, "Has something happened?" "Don't rush, take your time to explain." Clara Ocean spoke seriously, "I'm not rushing, it's you who should be worried. Today, I received 3 prescriptions that are essentially poisons. The prescriptions appear normal, but they contain toxic components." Simon Lee said he doesn't recognize the individuals who commissioned them, but they claim to be from your city lord's mansion and have been here for over 10 days. While I'm not an expert on poisons, I can assure you that if I were to prepare these medicines, they would be lethal." The butler asked, "Are you certain they are poisonous?" Clara Ocean shook her head uncertainly and then jokingly said, "Why don't you try them? I'll document what you look like when you die." Everyone around fell silent. Clara Ocean, dissatisfied, added, "My intuition tells me these things will kill someone. So, who do you suggest we test them on?" Simon Lee cleverly handed over the names of some individuals to the butler. The butler reviewed the names and said, "I don't recognize these people in the mansion." Simon Lee pulled out a memory jade and, after examining it for a moment, pointed to 3 individuals. "It's these 3 people." A group of people gathered around, and the butler frowned, realizing the situation was more complicated than expected. The butler said, "These 3 individuals are indeed outer disciples from sects who recently came to work at the city lord's mansion." Clara Ocean then took out the medicinal ingredients and explained to everyone. She pointed to certain herbs and said, "The prescription claims these are non-toxic, but I believe these 2 shouldn't be consumed. These 2 herbs here are harmless on their own, but when combined, they become lethal. They could easily poison a golden core beast to death." She gestured to the larger pile of ingredients as she spoke. Clara Ocean pointed at 2 separate medicinal herbs and said, "I've never seen this herb before, but my instincts tell me it's not edible. Also, your sect affairs have nothing to do with me, just don't obstruct my business." The city steward ordered the guards to catch a few mice and feed them as Clara instructed. As expected, all 3 mice died. Seeing Clara Ocean pitifully watching the dead mice, the kind-hearted soldiers buried their bodies. The city steward's face turned grim but remained courteous and said, "Miss Clara, rest assured, you will have an answer by tomorrow." Clara Ocean casually waved her hand and said, "It's fine on my end. It's just that the urgency earlier caused his door to collapse." She pointed pitifully at Simon Lee. The city steward waved his hand, and soldiers helped Simon Lee fix the door. In reality, they merely used a spell. Afterward, Clara Ocean had a good night's sleep and only woke up when the sun was high. When she brought the pills to her stall, a crowd had already gathered. Clara Ocean piled up a heap of bottles on the counter. Simon Lee, being thoughtful, divided the pills into bottles of 5, hiding the rest. When customers checked, they found each bottle contained 5 pills and were moved to tears. After all, other alchemists would only provide 2 or 3 pills at most. Simon Lee eagerly spread the word, emphasizing that Clara Ocean didn't keep a single pill for herself. Everyone knew that modern alchemists could only produce 4 to 5 pills from a batch of materials, which was already considered highly efficient. This time, they were clearly benefiting greatly. In the afternoon, an event shocked the residents of Falling Blossom City. 3 arrogant individuals from the previous day were hung at the city gate with signs reading, "Attempted assassination of the city lord." Clara Ocean looked at them and curiously asked the surrounding crowd, "Didn't they fail, though?" The crowd gave Clara Ocean disdainful looks and quickly dispersed. A city lord's guard explained in detail that the 3 individuals were outer disciples of the Scott family from Dream River Mountain. They were working for the eldest young master of the Taylor family, intending to settle the score from the previous incident. Their plan was to sneak poison into the city lord's mansion while Clara Ocean remained unaware. They believed their plan was foolproof, thinking a young girl like Clara couldn't distinguish the herbs. Yet, she accurately identified the poison. To outsiders, this was seen as an extraordinary talent for alchemy, a talent that made others grit their teeth in envy. Hearing this, Clara Ocean thought to herself, "TCH, I'm half demon after all. Of course, I know what's edible and what's not. Doesn't everyone know that the rat tribe specializes in testing for dangers? They even help spread the word. Whether something is edible or not can be easily guessed. Demon clans cultivate for tens of thousands, even millions of years. The foods they've consumed over the ages are countless. While they may not recall every name, they can certainly discern what's edible. Trying to trick a demon clan member with medicinal herbs? That's foolish. Truly, the inherited memories of the demon clan are beyond what mortals can comprehend." Clara Ocean shook her head, deciding to give up explaining to them. After all, the conflict between the 2 families had nothing to do with her. If they dragged her into the battlefield, the ones to suffer misfortune would only be them. The cultivation world had an unspoken rule: no matter how fiercely cultivators fought over resources, they must not harm alchemists or artisans who specialized in such professional skills. Of course, among various professions, alchemists were the most protected. On one hand, pills were essential for cultivation, and no amount was ever too much. Moreover, the success rate of pill refinement among alchemists was notoriously low, making them one of the most highly protected groups. If a conflict involved an alchemist, both sides would be held accountable. Especially if the alchemist had a guaranteed success rate for refining pills, destroying their entire family wouldn't even suffice as punishment. For this reason, Clara Ocean paid little attention to the battle between the 2 families, even though she wasn't entirely familiar with such common knowledge. However, in the inherited memories of the demon clan, there was a deep respect for alchemists. This alone was enough to prove their importance. Even other races had to show deference to such figures, so it went without saying how much more humans valued them, as they relied on pills even more. In the following days, Clara Ocean turned into a diligent worker. After all, the profits from her work were quite high, and refining pills became a smooth process. With no one causing trouble or interfering, even if the quality of the ingredients was subpar, it was still manageable. Such peaceful days passed for a month. Early at the end of the month, Clara Ocean hung up a sign that read, "Starting tomorrow, the stall will be closed for half a month. Pills can be collected from the rental manager." After finishing her tasks for the day and completing the pill refinement, she handed them over to the rental manager, instructing him to distribute them together with Simon Lee. Additionally, Clara Ocean rewarded the rental manager with a bottle of pills. Curious, he asked, "Miss Ho, where are you planning to go?" Clara Ocean smiled and replied, "I'm heading out to the mountains for a walk. It's been a while since I've gone out to relax. I'll be gone for about half a month, maybe a month at most." After making all the arrangements, Clara Ocean inquired about the route to the North Gate and leisurely strolled out of the city. She knew that Wu Jiujiu and Ba Jiujiu had already arrived by noon and were currently wandering outside the city. As soon as Clara Ocean stepped out of the gate, she was spotted by Ba Jiujiu, who was now a top-tier expert in the Tribulation Transcendence stage. Although Wu Jiujiu's abilities were far inferior, he immediately realized through his younger brother's reaction that the young lady had left the city. Before they departed, Henry Lake had specifically instructed them to ensure the safety of the young alchemist, Clara Ocean. Suddenly, Ba Jiujiu's expression darkened, and he gritted his teeth, saying, "Someone is really trying to steal her business." Wu Jiujiu scratched his head and looked sympathetically at the group following the young lady. Without even considering what she might do, he knew that just having her younger brother nearby was enough to deal with them thoroughly. Before his sympathy could deepen, his younger brother had already rushed out. Despite maintaining his human form, killing a Foundation establishment stage cultivator with a single strike was effortless. Seeing Ba Jiujiu charge forward, Clara Ocean simply turned around and sat down, happily enjoying the spectacle. They weren't far from the city gate, and besides, even the city lord was curious about who alchemist Clara Ocean might encounter. He had instructed the city gate guards to keep an eye on her. Thus, when a fight broke out, the guards quickly gathered around, standing by to watch. Once everyone was down, they stepped in to help carry the injured away and confirm whether the people she met were safe individuals. When Ba Jiujiu seemed ready to attack the city gate guards as well, Clara Ocean hurriedly pulled on his sleeve, saying, "Stop, stop, stop. They're just here to collect the bodies. Ignore them, just let them be." Eighth Uncle grabbed the back collar of Clara Ocean's shirt, effortlessly pulling her into his arms. He turned around and walked away, waving his hand at the city guards who were watching expectantly, signaling them to leave quickly. The guards could tell that the person taking her away was no ordinary expert. Clara Ocean secretly pulled out a small plaque from Eighth Uncle's back. Chapter 18, Episode 18, The Crazy Fox. On the plaque was drawn an arrow, with two large characters written, "Tribulation." The city guards discreetly wiped their sweat, ignoring Clara Ocean's playful demeanor, and quietly dragged the corpse away. They thought to themselves, seriously, why provoke someone undergoing a tribulation? Isn't that just asking for trouble? Luckily, we didn't get too close, or we'd have become sacrificial offerings. Back in the city, the guards reported the incident outside to the city lord. Without even mentioning who the person was, just hearing the phrase, "tribulation stage," was enough to terrify them, let alone everything else. Upon confirmation, it was revealed that the assassins this time were again sent by the Taylor family. However, the Scott family had no involvement this time. In truth, the Taylor family members were quite wronged. They simply appeared at the wrong time and place and were taken down before they could even speak. What they wanted to say was, "Would you be willing to join the Taylor family and refine pills for us?" Unfortunately, they didn't even get the chance to say it before being annihilated. Being carried away by Eighth Uncle, Clara Ocean giggled and asked, "Who were those people?" Clara Ocean casually replied, "No idea." Nicholas Wood asked, "Were they dangerous?" Clara Ocean answered, "Maybe, probably, possibly, not sure." The two fox demons were extremely dissatisfied with her vague response. Eighth Uncle then ordered the nearby little demons to investigate and report back. Upon hearing the little demons' report, the three foxes fell silent. It seemed they had accidentally killed good people, and the misunderstanding was rather significant. Clara Ocean immediately took out a bottle of pills and told the little demons, "You found nothing, you know nothing." Then she smiled and asked, "Understood?" The little demons, feeling helpless, obediently nodded, took the pills, and retreated. Clara Ocean turned to console Eighth Uncle. Well, she hadn't even finished her sentence. Eighth Uncle interrupted nonchalantly, "Girl, they're just little demons. If they die, they die. Didn't you tell them I'm a tribulation stage expert? I bet there isn't another tribulation stage expert in all of Dream River Mountain. They wouldn't dare come after me. As for you, when we get back, call a few guards to accompany you and see what they can do." Clara Ocean and Nicholas Wood exchanged glances. Clara Ocean sighed, "Eighth Uncle is really going to corrupt the young ones." Eighth Uncle retorted bluntly, "You seem even more ruthless than us, don't you?" Clara Ocean raised her small fist in dissatisfaction. The three foxes continued on their way, chatting and laughing. Speaking of the time when the Lake Clan suddenly produced 9 nine-tailed foxes, their ranking in the Demon Clan instantly soared to the top. Joking aside, a single nine-tailed fox already possesses the power to destroy heaven and earth, and now there are 9 of them. Who would dare to recklessly provoke the Lake Clan? The most frustrating part is that the one who created these 9 nine-tailed foxes is actually a half-demon from the Lake Clan. Even more troubling is that this half-demon has the potential to become a rare nine-tailed fox of the Lake Clan. However, there's a significant chance it might turn into a mad nine-tailed fox. This news made Eric King want to bang his head against the wall. Isn't this child just causing more trouble? Animals, or rather, all living beings, share a common understanding: madness is the most dangerous. This time, 3 foxes did not return to the Lake Clan but instead ventured to a faraway place. Clara Ocean simply slept on Eighth Uncle's back, letting him carry her as he ran. After some time, when Clara Ocean was awakened, a lightning orb answered the opponent's challenge. Eric King was blasted until his face was blackened, choosing not to argue with a lunatic. When Clara Ocean came to her senses, she found herself in a place dense with demonic energy. Clara Ocean clearly felt uncomfortable with the aura of this place. Hundreds of eyes stared at her, making Clara Ocean frown with unease. A young man, speaking in what he thought was a friendly tone, asked, "Little girl, is something wrong?" Clara Ocean glanced at him and irritably replied, "Who are you?" The young man looked a bit awkward, but fortunately, Henry Lake was somewhat accustomed to her manner of speaking and proactively engaged her in conversation. However, after just 3 sentences, Henry Lake was thoroughly annoyed. The reason? Clara Ocean's every response left him speechless. Seeing the tense situation, Fifth Uncle stepped in and asked, "Little girl, why are you so grumpy right after waking up?" Clara Ocean suppressed the urge to punch Fifth Uncle and calmly said, "This wretched place has terrible spiritual energy." The surrounding demons, hearing this, erupted in murmurs, their expressions as if ready to fight. Their anger caused the demonic energy around to surge, and everyone noticed that Clara Ocean was also becoming enraged. What shocked everyone was that 2 fluffy ears suddenly appeared on Clara Ocean's head, and a colorful tail emerged behind her. Only then did everyone realize the gravity of the situation: a mad fox. Clara Ocean's eyes had turned purple. Fifth Uncle slapped his forehead and said, "I get it now, everyone stay calm. If I'm not mistaken, this little girl isn't adjusting well to the demonic energy here, which is why she's losing control." As soon as he finished speaking, Clara Ocean grew 3 tails, her expression one of pure hostility. Fifth Uncle quickly fled, knowing full well that he was no match for a mad fox. Even though this mad fox was just a young one, he, a mature 3-tailed fox, still couldn't handle her. He had heard rumors that Clara Ocean's inner cores outnumbered his by 8. In this situation, only someone with a death wish would dare to confront her. Under the bewildered gazes of the crowd, they thought, wasn't this half-demon supposed to be unable to transform? Unless she went mad. Could Henry Lake have been too cunning? And this fox sure goes mad easily. At this point, Eighth Uncle, realizing the situation was dire, transformed into his original fox form, intending to subdue Clara Ocean. Clearly, Clara Ocean's transformation was an unexpected event. What happened next left the demons dumbfounded. Clara Ocean, with 3 tails, faced off against Eighth Uncle, who had 9 tails. Logically, Clara Ocean should have been the one thrown back. But in reality, Eighth Uncle was sent flying repeatedly. While the demons were still in shock, Clara Ocean caught up with the falling Eighth Uncle, pinning him down with one claw on his throat and the other over his heart. She merely looked curiously at the fox that resembled her before casually throwing Eighth Uncle several hundred meters away. Throwing a powerful tribulation-crossing demon to the point where it couldn't get up for half a day, Clara Ocean naturally didn't bother looking at the fox that had been tossed aside. She turned around and charged into the group of demons. Surrounding her were all great demons. If they hadn't reached the nascent soul stage, they wouldn't dare to stand there. As for the monsters above the nascent soul stage, most were in deep slumber, except for 9 newly ascended 9-tailed foxes from the Lake clan lingering outside. Although their attacks couldn't land effectively, they were far from being killed. After all, their levels were significantly higher, separated by several major realms. After a chaotic brawl, aside from a few royal figures maintaining their composure and refraining from action, those who did intervene were already rolling on the ground. Even the royal figures were sweating nervously. Good heavens, a crazed fox was indeed difficult to deal with. At this moment, someone from the True Spirit clan made a move. The True Spirit clan's primary method of attack was controlling the souls of living beings and then devouring them, effectively solving the problem at its root. The downside, however, was that the creatures they targeted often suffered certain aftereffects. For example, temporary mental instability was considered fortunate. In severe cases, it wasn't uncommon for them to become completely mindless. When Henry Lake saw a Mahayana expert from the True Spirit clan targeting his junior, he was about to speak out when something strange happened. In the blink of an eye, the members of the True Spirit clan disappeared. Within just 2 breaths, they were flung out, spitting blood. Cough, she. They managed to stammer, she, 3 times before passing out. At this point, the demon royals felt a chill down their spines. Wasn't this heading towards total annihilation? If word got out, how could they save face? Eric King was equally frustrated. What was going on? Seeing that things couldn't continue this way, 3 elder demons simultaneously stepped in. After all, Clara Ocean was still young and lacked combat experience. Before long, she found herself struggling. As Clara Ocean became exhausted, Henry Lake suddenly swept her neck from behind with one of his fox tails. She immediately felt dizzy, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. The demon royals stared silently at the unconscious Clara Ocean. Henry Lake picked her up and carried her out of the demon clan's barrier. Fearing for Henry Lake's safety, the demon royals followed closely behind. What left the great demon speechless was that as soon as they exited the demon clan's barrier, Clara Ocean's transformed state began to fade visibly. Within 10 breaths, she had completely reverted to her human form. Over their heads, a flock of black crows seemed to fly by, accompanied by a string of question marks. Could it be that all their efforts had been in vain? Henry Lake awkwardly explained, maybe the girl couldn't withstand the demonic aura inside the barrier, and that's why this happened. Eric King, annoyed, retorted, we've seen it. Now what? Henry Lake, frustrated, replied, we'll wait for her to wake up and assess the situation then. The demons nodded helplessly. After all, no one dared to wake her up. This girl had even dared to hit Eric King, they had no choice but to wait. Just as they were discussing, an angry voice suddenly rang out. Ugh, it hurts so much, who's so heartless? Even hitting a child. Clara Ocean muttered while rubbing her neck and getting up. Spotting Henry Lake beside her, she immediately teared up and complained, Grandpa, file a complaint. Someone hit me. Boo-hoo, the surrounding demons felt like fainting from frustration. Henry Lake smacked Clara Ocean on the head and grumbled, "It was me who hit you. What were you doing just now? Look at the mess you caused, beating up all the seniors around you." Clara Ocean blinked in confusion, her face full of grievance. Sneaking a glance around, the only one who remained calm was Wu Jojo, who had clearly slipped away before the chaos started. At this moment, Wu Jojo walked over with a sly grin, giving her a thumbs up and saying, "Girl, you've truly brought glory to the Tambai Demon Fox, glory to the Lake Clan. The crazy fox is indeed extraordinary." #### Chapter 19, the fox deity Clara Ocean picked up on something odd and asked discontentedly, "Crazy?" Wu Jojo nodded, pointing at the surrounding crowd, "You beat up everyone here, and in the end, it took 3 demon kings joining forces to subdue you." Wu Jojo laughed smugly. Turning back, Clara Ocean asked doubtfully, "But isn't that unusual? You're all great demons. Someone explain this to me, I don't feel like anything's out of the ordinary right now." Seeing her innocent gaze, the surrounding great demons felt like dying inside. What kind of monster had the Lake Clan produced this time? At this moment, a tribulation stage master from the True Spirit Clan finally woke up. Glaring at Clara Ocean, he angrily said to Henry Lake, "Henry Lake, you're too cunning. Didn't you say this girl was a 9-tailed fox?" Henry Lake looked clearly puzzled, a string of question marks floating above his head. He turned to Clara Ocean and asked, "Didn't you say the one who passed down the inheritance memories to you was a 9-tailed fox?" Clara Ocean was equally confused, helplessly replying, "Well, let me check the situation with the spirit embryo for a moment. Wait here, and by the way, you should probably find somewhere else to practice, I'm never going back to that place again. And hitting people, boo-hoo." The demon kings around her were filled with symbols of rage. "If you'd said that earlier, wouldn't it have been better?" Clara Ocean closed her eyes, trying to communicate with the little fox in her spirit embryo. But when she saw the fox, she was stunned. In her memory, the first time she communicated with this fox, it was white, the second time, after leaving her mother's body, she noticed it had turned colorful. Now, it had turned a dull gray, well, maybe silver. And it had grown much larger. Previously, she had always communicated with it using soul communication. But this time, as soon as Clara Ocean saw it, she heard it speak, "You're awake." Clara Ocean sighed helplessly and asked, "Sister, explain this situation. You've beaten all the demon kings and every big shot who could fight in the demon realm." The fox spirit scornfully said, "TCH, if they weren't so high level, I would have wiped them out long ago." Clara Ocean covered her eyes, pretending to be frightened. The fox spirit continued, "I know what you want to ask. The explanation is a bit complicated, so let me clarify, what I do is exactly what you do, so don't deny it." It then rearranged its words, "First of all, the first time we met, that was my true form. You should know that your mother is Fairy Lake, so I was formed from her essence blood combined with your father's essence blood, along with a large portion of her spiritual power. My main role is to protect your human soul and life soul." The fox spirit scratched its head and went on, "The 3 souls, in human understanding, are the primal soul, the yin soul, and the yang soul. Your human soul corresponds to the yang soul, your life soul corresponds to your primal soul, and my true form corresponds to the yin soul. What's called the out-of-body phase, is when my yin soul can travel outside, and soul division refers to all 3 souls venturing out." Clara Ocean, with tears welling up, said, "Sister, you're off topic. Get to the point. Out-of-body travel and soul division are still far beyond me, okay?" The fox spirit scratched its ear again and said, "The first time you saw me, I was white because your mother is a white fox. The second time, I was colorful because of your cultivation method. Since you possess all cultivation techniques, I turned into a rainbow. Honestly, I'm quite dissatisfied with that nickname you gave me. The fox spirit pouted and, in a critical tone, said, I know you dislike demonic energy, but I need it to maintain my abilities. The tiny bit of spiritual energy you usually convert is barely enough for me to use. This time, since we're in a place with such dense demonic energy, I indulged a little more. After speaking, the fox spirit even let out a burp. Clara Ocean helplessly said, You are full, so why am I experiencing side effects? Also, in your current state, what should I be paying attention to? The fox spirit scratched its head, seemingly pondering, and after a moment, it irresponsibly said, I don't know either. Aren't we the same age? Here's a piece of advice, don't go to places with overly dense demonic energy for the time being, as it'll make me lose control easily. After thinking for a bit, the fox spirit added, if your cultivation level drops too much, I will also automatically lose control. However, I won't go berserk like this time and crazily increase power. In other words, I don't need too much demonic energy, but you must provide me with enough to sustain myself. I suggest you carry a few demonic pills, just enough to consume. Ideally, bring the type that can automatically replenish energy. Clara Ocean silently withdrew from her spiritual sea. Finally, she learned from the fox spirit that her current name was, Chaotic Mystic Abyss. It sounded very cool. She looked helplessly at Henry Lake and weakly asked, What is Chaotic Mystic Abyss? No, what does it mean? Henry Lake coughed for a long while before explaining to Clara Ocean, to put it simply, it means 2 words, Fox God. The god of all foxes. Clara Ocean scratched her head and said, Huh. Oh. After a pause, she awkwardly asked, how destructive is the fox god? The bad news is, I might not be able to control her. Up until now, the principle is that she's much stronger than me. Henry Lake asked in a sorrowful tone, You're not planning to tell us that you could go mad at any moment, are you? Clara Ocean calmly nodded and said fearlessly, If you attack me, I'll definitely go mad. Also, I can't go to places with overly strong demonic energy, or I'll mutate faster than today. Other than that, I shouldn't randomly go mad, right? She and I are the same age, this kind of issue can't be resolved by just the 2 of us discussing it, can it? The surrounding great demons were on the verge of tears. They had heard about this girl's oddities before, but wasn't this a bit beyond their expectations? They really wanted to say, You'd better stay rational for everyone's safety. As Clara Ocean spoke, a white light appeared on her body. She shook her head for a moment before saying, Finally, I feel better. By the way, Grandpa Fox, give me some demonic pills. The kind that automatically replenishes energy would be best. 1 or 2 pills should be enough to stabilize things. If Sister Fox doesn't have anything to eat, she'll get angry. But if I step into Demon Clan territory, the unlucky ones will be you all. As soon as Clara Ocean finished speaking, 2 high-grade demonic pills were already in her hands. No kidding, who wouldn't understand the implications of the word unlucky? 2 demonic pills, this price was absolutely worth it. Clara Ocean looked at the surrounding demons, who were swaying and staggering. She stood up, stretched out her arms, and closed her eyes. Instantly, white light radiated from her body, and the injuries of the surrounding demons began to heal rapidly. Before long, there were no major issues left. Several demon kings instinctively guarded Clara Ocean. This healing power lasted for a while, and when Clara Ocean opened her eyes and saw that the surrounding great demons were all alive, she retracted her healing energy. She looked down at the 2 demonic pills she had just obtained, now turned translucent. Clara Ocean held up the demonic pills and asked Henry Lake, What's going on? Henry Lake reluctantly said, The spiritual power is depleted, it'll recover after some time. Clara Ocean nodded and closed her eyes to communicate with the spirit lake. She understood that when she used these powers, it was mainly guided by the spirit lake, which reduced the consumption of her spiritual energy. However, the spirit lake mentioned that this time the scope was too large, if it had been individual cases, the energy consumption wouldn't have been as significant. Furthermore, this time it involved powerful beings, whereas treating humans wouldn't even require the Spirit Lake's intervention. Currently, only 2 members of the True Spirit clan remained lying on the ground. Even the powerful beings cursed by her spiritual power during the earlier battle had recovered. Clara Ocean walked up to one of the True Spirit clan members, but the person backed away. Annoyed, Clara Ocean said, "Come on, you're at the transcendent stage. What are you afraid of? Give me your paw, don't resist, let me check." The senior member of the True Spirit clan could only grimace and reluctantly extend his paw. After feeling it for a moment, Clara Ocean closed her eyes and asked, "What should be done about this?" The Spirit Lake snapped irritably, "Useless fool, scared of his own shadow. It's nothing serious. Just let him consume some soul essence, no need to bother with him." Clara Ocean sighed helplessly. Opening her eyes, she said, "Grandpa Spirit Lake, just let him eat a few of those stones from last time. It seems like he's just scared himself." The surrounding powerful beings all looked visibly uncomfortable. Daniel Hall, a transcendent from the True Spirit clan, angrily said, "I did not scare myself, okay?" Clara Ocean was about to argue back, but even she didn't notice the sudden flash of purple light in her eyes. Daniel Hall shuddered and involuntarily blurted out, "I was scared by the form of the spirit god." Clara Ocean feigned surprise, puzzled as to why this uncle of hers suddenly started speaking the truth. The surrounding True Spirit clan members covered their faces, unable to watch any longer. Even Henry Lake rubbed his forehead and muttered helplessly, "No need to ask, that's enchantment. Talking to the spirit god without being cursed is already a courtesy." Clara Ocean sighed and said, "His level is too high. Sister Spirit said there's no need to waste spiritual power." The powerful beings were left in exasperation, while the True Spirit clan members, disregarding hierarchy, each gave Daniel Hall a smack to express their dissatisfaction. When everyone turned to look at Clara Ocean, she shrugged, indicating it had nothing to do with her. She helplessly added, "Sister Spirit just doesn't like the look of you." Clara Ocean then focused her attention on the True Spirit clan leader, who was still injured. His name was Leo Cloud. He threw the stones Henry Lake had given Daniel Hall earlier and angrily said, "Go home and reflect on your actions. You're a disgrace." Daniel Hall felt utterly wronged. Clara Ocean pointed her little finger at Leo Cloud and gestured for him to come over. "Don't resist, let me examine your body." She then turned to the nearby Spirit Kings and said, "Watch carefully, don't let anyone attack me. Otherwise, this guy will die first." The Spirit Kings wiped their sweat nervously. Clara Ocean carefully examined the injuries of Leo Cloud for a long time. After pondering for a while, she decisively declared, "It's incurable." Eric King rolled his eyes and asked, "Incurable? Does that mean you have a way to heal it?" Clara Ocean, slightly annoyed, said, "I can't treat him. The risk is too high. Not to mention whether I can even cure him or not, what if I lose control again? Moreover, his injuries are extremely intricate. You can't force such a difficult task on me, a mere child." Around her, the group of great demons fell silent, secretly thinking, "You really have no shame saying that." Eric King tentatively asked, "How confident are you?" Clara Ocean calculated for a long time before replying in frustration, "Let's not talk about other things. Even if you provide all the items I need and the information is complete, I only have a 10% chance of success. Are you really going to risk my life for this 10%? What if I die?" Sister Fox would oppose this too. Chapter 20, The Keys Family Massacre. Clara Ocean continued, "Moreover, he has offended quite a few people. Forget everything else, just the 3 injuries he has are already incredibly tricky. Even if we reluctantly combine the wisdom of you old folks and somehow find a method, he's a tribulation transcender. If I treat him, I might lose all of my cultivation. It's a serious loss, I won't do it. Eric King rolled his eyes and said, then can you at least provide us with some treatment options? Consider it as us owing you a favor. Clara Ocean rolled her eyes and said, fine. After thinking for a moment, she said, if I really help you cure him, both your clans will owe the Lake Clan 3 favors. If we actually discover a solution, then it will be 4 favors. Will you agree to this? As for the information and items, you'll have to research and gather them yourselves. Eric King and Ling Yun Python exchanged glances before replying, agreed. Clara Ocean added, you just need to take responsibility for Henry Lake, or rather, let your 2 clans take responsibility for the Lake Clan. Is that okay? Eric King and Ling Yun Python both nodded. Taking responsibility for the Lake Clan was better, dealing with Henry Lake, who was rational, was far easier than dealing with a lunatic. Clara Ocean thought for a moment, rummaged around her belongings, and finally pulled out a stone. She tossed it to Ling Yun Python and casually said, it's not for you to eat. Ling Yun Python took the stone and looked at it, helplessly commenting, humans seem to call this a memory stone, capable of storing images. Clara Ocean nodded and continued, listen carefully and follow my instructions seriously. Of course, if you find it too troublesome, I can ask Sister Fox to explore your memories. Ling Yun Python immediately shook his head vigorously like a drum. Clara Ocean gave him a disdainful look and continued, do you still remember the events before and after you were injured? Ling Yun Python nodded. Clara Ocean said, in your mind, there's a long nail like this, or you could call it a needle. As she spoke, Clara Ocean gestured. It's about 3 to 5 inches long and primarily functions to seal your demonic essence. Clara Ocean scratched her head and said, find the moments before and after you were injured. We need the appearance of the person who cast the spell and the shape of the weapon. If you can find the method of crafting that nail, even better. If not, we'll all brainstorm together. She paused before continuing, the second part to look for is shortly after you were struck by the needle. Your soul was poisoned with a substance that corrodes your consciousness, causing it to degrade continuously. Clara Ocean went on, similarly, whatever you can recall, record it. The 3rd fatal injury occurred about 10 years after the poisoning. Oh, right, the poison was administered multiple times, over a span of 10 years, in more than a dozen instances. Personally, I believe it's highly likely that someone close to you was responsible for the poisoning. Record whatever memories you can find, and we'll analyze them together. Clara Ocean thought for a moment before continuing, the 3rd injury, though the smallest, is the most troublesome. It's a wound that hasn't healed for years. There's a possibility it could be caused by a parasite or a living organism. If that's the case, it's manageable. The most problematic scenario is if it's an unknown drug. That's roughly it. Now start gathering the information, and then we'll all work on finding a solution together. Looking at the strange expressions of the great demons, Clara Ocean discontentedly said, I'm not even 5 years old yet, can you lower your expectations a bit? Oh, and by the way, find a few more demon cores as backups, preferably some golden cores to deal with the situation. Leo Cloud thought for a long time and finally retrieved what was needed from his vast ocean of memories, jotting it down for everyone to see. It seemed fairly reliable. However, when Clara Ocean saw the recipe Leo Cloud had come up with, the corners of her mouth twitched involuntarily. Noticing her odd reaction, Henry Lake asked, little girl, is there something wrong? Clara Ocean hesitantly complained, from what I know, among those 3 recipes, one barely has the effect of harming the primordial spirit, while the other 2 are aimed at physical attacks. The problem is, I just saw these 3 recipes a few days ago and haven't figured out how to deal with them yet. Henry Lake, a cunning old fox, listened and then asked, first question, does the treatment need to be done in a specific order? Second question, do you know the origin of these recipes? Clara Ocean scratched her head and stayed silent for a while, clearly consulting with the fox spirit. After a moment, she replied, Sister Fox suggests treating anyone that can be treated first, and as for the loss of demon power, we'll deal with that after healing the injuries. As for the origin of the recipes, it's something I kind of know. Henry Lake questioned with some doubt, what do you mean by, kind of know? Clara Ocean thought for a bit and said, I was in Falling Blossom City, as you know. A few days ago, someone gave me these 3 recipes for alchemy. Sister Fox only warned me that they're poisonous and shouldn't be consumed or made, but even she didn't know the specifics. The city lord eventually discovered that they were created by the Taylor family from Dream River Mountain. Oh, right, I was ambushed outside and killed by 8th uncle, who seemed to be working with them. Clara Ocean continued, leaving aside the credibility of this conclusion, if these recipes appeared in Falling Blossom City, then Dream River Mountain must have records related to them. Is it possible to sweep through again? But this time, the target should be the library pavilion. That's all the information I have, let me know if it helps. While we were discussing, a disciple of the Lake clan hurriedly ran up the mountain, desperate to meet Henry Lake. Clara Ocean looked at her panting clansman and sympathetically asked, did something happen to the Lake clan? The fox demon delivering the message shook his head, pointed at Clara Ocean, and gasped, the Keys family, it's you, they're alive. Clara Ocean remained silent for a long time, thinking to herself, impossible. Don't those old guys have the myriad miles traceless charm? How could they still die? Do they even have any face left? The great demons around were all bracing themselves for another collective collapse, while Clara Ocean remained extraordinarily calm and asked, did even the Golden Core elders die? The great demons felt an urge to bang their heads against the wall. It seemed that Clara Ocean outside the barrier and Clara Ocean inside the barrier were 2 completely different worlds. How could she ask such a thing so calmly? The fox spirit messenger, somewhat fearful, reported, it seems the 3 Golden Core stage individuals used an escape technique to flee. The one who led the massacre is your father. He appears to have been mentally controlled. As for the lower-level disciples, they are likely all dead. Currently, only the bodies of 4 juniors remain missing. Those 4 must be the most outstanding individuals of your generation. Clara Ocean rolled her eyes and said, no need to search further, those old geezers must have taken them. I already said, having the myriad miles traceless charm and still being annihilated, how stupid must they be? The people of Dream River Mountain must have been recklessly desperate. That said, for a sect to thrive for tens of thousands of years, it truly shows their resilience. Her gaze suddenly turned icy as Clara Ocean said, today's treatment ends here. I have personal matters to attend to. Turning around, she dumped a pile of bottles in front of Henry Lake and said, Golden Core Stage and Foundation Establishment Stage, split them into 3 portions. I'll tell you their locations later. Have the fox spirits deliver them there. If there's any embezzlement, don't blame me for being ruthless. Also, here are some spirit stones. Take them to those 3 old men and tell them to endure through this period. I will exact vengeance. Clara Ocean then turned to the Demon Kings and said, Dream River Mountain is mine. Anyone who dares to snatch my prey, don't blame me for turning hostile. The demons shook their heads. Clara Ocean then tilted her head back to gaze at the sky. Closing her eyes, when she opened them again, fox ears had grown on her head, and a tail emerged from her back. The demons immediately went on guard, only to see Clara Ocean's eyes emit 2 beams of purple light shooting straight into the sky. After a while, the purple light dissipated. The great demons, knowing better, piled up golden cores and demon pills in front of Clara Ocean. They truly had no desire to fight with this crazy fox, doing so would only result in loss and frustration. Should they go all out? Henry Lake would panic, and they wouldn't bear it either. Should they hold back? This girl fought with such ferocity. Clara Ocean, without hesitation, grabbed a few pills and absorbed them. Her voice, slightly weakened, instructed, listen carefully. Flying Crossing Ridge, Valley of 10,000 Flowers, Falling Sound Mountain, those 3 old men are there. Have the fox spirits deliver the items, along with a sound transmission stone. I'll explain more later. Clara Ocean then turned to Daniel Hall and a few members of the True Spirit clan, saying, "You all can materialize into spirit bodies, right? Have Oscar Lewis lead your group to the library pavilion. Take all the books from the 4th floor and bring them here. If it's too much trouble, just review them one by one. Either way, whether Leo Cloud lives or dies, the key lies on that floor." After speaking, Clara Ocean looked around and asked in a tone full of exasperation, "Understood?"